Dr. Frederick van Zyl Slabbert embodied the values of a democratic South Africa before those values were implemented and then protected by law. He fought for equality, dignity, and a shared future, and used his influence to dismantle the oppressive and discriminatory structural systems of the apartheid regime. Frederick van Zyl Slabbert grew up in Pietersburg, Pretoria, with a love for rugby and cricket. He continued his studies at the University of Stellenbosch, and in 1967 he obtained a doctorate in sociology. He used the knowledge he obtained from his alma mater to challenge the laws of the National Party during apartheid.
That constitution must allow for full citizenship, irrespective of race and no domination.
Irrespective of race and no domination. In 1979, his vision of a free and democratic South Africa propelled him to become the leader of the Progressive Party. However, after realizing that he would need more than just the voice in Parliament, he left his party in 1986. The following year, he, along with the Institute of Democratic Alternatives in South Africa, organized the Dakar Conference, a historic event where South Africans who were in exile in academia, politics, and the arts came together in solidarity against the apartheid regime.
There is a sadness that we have to meet so far from our common fatherland. This in itself is a tragic commentary on the history we share. Some of you have traveled far and suffered much pursuing freedom for your country. And despite whatever differences there may be, we have come to talk to you because we realize your critical role in finding a resolution to our tragedy.
At Stellenbosch University, his residence involvement began early. During his student years, he was the first residence head of Mayuba Men's Residence, and later, after returning to Stellenbosch in 1970, he took up a role that shaped him in a deeply reflective and formative way as a senior lecturer and residence head of Simmonsburg Residence. In that space, leadership was not a title. It was a daily practice, listening, guiding, challenging young minds, and insisting that privilege must carry responsibility, because the future of a country is often rehearsed first in the character of its students. In 1964, Slabbert received the A. Bailey Travel Bursary to visit the United Kingdom, an early marker of how seriously he took exposure, service, and leadership development beyond the familiar. That same thread continues decades later through the FVZS Institute's ongoing relationship with the A. Bailey Trust. On the 12th of May 2008, Dr. van Zyl Slabbert became the Chancellor of Stellenbosch University, where he held this position until he passed away on the 14th of May 2010. Gone, but never forgotten, his legacy lives on through the founding of the Frederick van Zyl Slabbert Institute in March 2011. Over the past 15 years, this institute has equipped students with the leadership abilities to follow in his footsteps, embodying responsible, engaged citizenship. This institute has a far-reaching impact and continues to make an impact nationally and globally through its programs. In collaboration with student leaders in governance structures, commuter and residence leaders, through experiential learning, striving to inspire and equip responsible citizen leaders. Van Zyl Slabbert was indeed a man on a mission with a calling which led him to speak up and fight against injustice.
Why can one call Van Zyl Slabbert a man on a mission? The short answer to that will be when he went into Parliament in 1974, for the Progressive Federal Party. He queried the notion that apartheid could work, and he insisted that the National Party at the time that they address these issues and not try and skirt around them.
After his death, the Institute continues to pursue his mission and embodies his ethos, building courageous, engaged citizens for a changing South Africa. But how do these programs impact student leaders across South Africa to become citizen leaders?
Having had the privilege of partaking in multiple FVZS offerings in my undergrad and in my student leadership experience gave me a holistic development. It made me more confident, and that confidence allowed me to achieve scholarships, early career success, and mostly a contribution to my society, for which I'm forever indebted to the FVZS. This institute has been pivotal in many students, my peers, students to come, and greatly the society at large.
My time at FVZS has been nothing but remarkable. One of the foundations that I was taught there is that I belong. I belong in spaces that was never meant for me, never meant for me to occupy. But I stand here today because this is where you learn and grow. Stellenbosch University has provided the space for students like you and I, students who come from various backgrounds, to come together and feel a sense of responsibility, a shared responsibility at that.
What the FVZS Institute does for you is a kind of way of structuring how you approach difficult conversations. And that teaches you one of the most important skills that any young leader can learn, and that is to engage with people.
Because I'm a critical thinker, and as someone who describes themselves as such, it is imperative for me to expose myself to other critical thinkers and also absorb their thinking so that I can also apply it to my own thinking.
So 15 years ago, this wonderful, wonderful Leadership Institute started, and I remember it vividly. The former Chancellor, very sadly, had to retire, and very shortly thereafter passed, and Stellenbosch University looked for a wonderful, wonderful new way to acknowledge and celebrate the life and legacy of Zyl Slabbert. The second pillar was, of course, the fact that we were in the middle of the Hope Project. The late Prof. Russell Botman started an initiative at this university that allowed us to focus our science on society. And then thirdly, we had an opportunity to rethink student leadership development. What is it that we wanted to do? How did we want to focus our work? And who did we regard as leaders on our campus? And in a wonderful way, these three initiatives came together.
So 15 years later, we are proud to be associated with a growing leadership community across the globe, with youth leaders who are truly making their mark in different sectors of our society. Our student leaders over the year, together with subject matter experts across different disciplines, have embarked on a journey to unpack the context of the African perspective and that relationship with leadership. Secondly, how our born-free student leaders truly contribute to the democracy of our country post-1994. And thirdly, if we say that we are developing the graduate attributes here at Stellenbosch University, how does this institute, together with all our higher education partners in South Africa, positively influence the social dynamics of our country? 15 years later, we have evolved with programs and meaningful partnerships, from Stellenbosch University's SU Leads to expanding the leadership pipeline through the Leadership Summit for Aspiring Leaders, to launching Marty's Lead, our largest multi-phase integrated program for all our student governance structures. From public discourses, podcasts, academic think tanks, to hosting the first international youth think tank in Africa, in collaboration with the International Youth Think Tank and the Norwegian Nobel Institute. 2026, our celebratory year, taking it all the way back to the late Dr. Zyl Slabbert's footprints that he left in Dakar. Please join us as the Institute will be hosting the African Youth Summit in collaboration with the UNESCO Chair on Intercultural Competences later this year in Dakar, bringing together youth leaders across the globe to explore intercultural citizenship. So 15 years later, the question is not if Zyl Slabbert's legacy lives on. It's evident through the work and the growing footprint of the thousands of student leaders who still have a very strong connection with our institute. Thank you to all our partners and every single student leader who have opened themselves up to the beautiful, vulnerable process of exploring your leadership identity. Thank you for your growing participation. Your contribution keeps the Constitution alive.